Now, this is a really, really painful story, especially when you have your children testifying against you. And one of the reasons why it's important to have these conversations, because there are lots of Osinachi'S right now that are in their homes, and they are hoping that things will change, or they are thinking that, you know, that's expected to stay. But let's talk first about the judgment, and then we'll talk about the other Osinachi'S who may be watching. What are your own thoughts on the judgment? Because I've seen comments saying it was a bit too harsh, you know, or they should have given him a life sentence instead of a death penalty. Although he still has the opportunity to appeal, you know, he might get a better judgment at the higher courts. But as of now, it's still death by hanging. Do you think that was a bit harsh, or do you think they should have given him life imprisonment because of his children? So at least his children can know that his daddy is there and they can go and visit him. At least, so if you take the mother is not dead, people are thinking, okay, you've taken both parents from the children. Like to
sadly, when domestic violence is involved, one of the likely consequences is that there will be no parents for the product of that marriage, which is why they advise leave, and people still think it's harsh to say so. One of the consequences what we are dealing with now, one of the parties of the marriage is dead. One of the parties of the marriage is dead again because he's guilty of, you know, having murdered or led to the death of one of them. So in any of the circumstances, when two people are marrying, just so that we put it out there, if you are looking to marry someone today, be considering that if this were your circumstance, your children will be they will be orphans from the one it starts to happen. Because if you either don't leave to prevent it or curb it in one way or the other, this is the outcome. There's no way. If the father had gotten a life sentence, he go spend them for somewhere now. The kids will have to go through some form of therapy, help, psychological, whatever. Yes, to get through it. They will need foster care. They will be parented by distant relatives, close relative, whatever, but it will certainly not be him. He wasn't even fit a parent in the first place to love his partner, who was also a parent, or at least respect the partner. You don't have to love her, because some marriages are loveless, but at least there will be regard, respect for the sake of the children. They'll say, you don't talk to the mother of your children publicly like that. Some people say, hey, she's my wife, I married her, but she's now the mother of your kids. The kids are watching. Yes. The lack of control of your emotions, your temper and all of that, or your total abashed nature of doing things, I no go agree, can actually lead to this and destroy the lives of the children. So a violent partner is a violent parent and an unfit one.
So let me come to you.
Yes. So for me, I don't think the judgment was harsh. I think this would serve as deterrence to a lot of abusers out there who will know that one day there will be a day of reckoning, and it can go anyway. You can end up being jailed for life. You can end up being, you know, sentenced to die by hanging. You can end up anyhow. So before you think of raising your hands to hit another person's child, think through the consequences. If this is found in how many years, if they give me the punishment that is, you know, supposed to come to me, would I lose one? Secondly, abusers have no mercy. I've seen abusers one-on-one, and I know that there's no form of empathy in their mind. And, you know, when we always say, let's stay because of the children, I worry, because at the end of the day, we end up, you know, raising children that are damaged, children who will now become adults and start healing their trauma, start doing therapy. Many of them will now toe either of the parents' paths. Either they are becoming abusers themselves, or they're attracting partners who will further abuse them, because that's what their subconscious is already used to. So we could have said, they've lost one parent, they should not lose another parent. They may have that parent there, but it's safer for them to be away from that parent. So at the end of the day, it's a lose-lose situation for everybody, especially the children. I'm more concerned about what the children are doing right now. What are they going through right now? What sort of emotional support do they have? I'm hoping that they have family members who understand some of these things, who would now take them to therapy, who will show them love, the love that they are not used to. Imagine being in an abusive home, and I don't know if anybody has really experienced it. You walk on eggshells. You are, as a child, you have so much fear because your primary caregivers are at each other every 2 minutes. something triggers and people are throwing books, people are throwing cups, people are throwing, carrying knives. You see that firsthand, and it damages your psyche as a child. So if they can take you away from that situation, whether the parents sort out themselves or not, we should be focusing on the children at the moment, because the parents are adults. They have made their decisions. They have chosen to live by their decisions. Unfortunately, somebody had to die for people's eyes to be open. So I don't think the judgment is too harsh. It's small, so that people will know that if I choose to be an abuser, because the truth of the matter is, even abusers don't abuse everybody. They look face.
They
look face. So you come into a marriage and they look at you like your family cannot stand up for you. Then they capitalize on it. If they know that you have a strong backbone, and once you raise they look face. I've seen abusers who have treated different wives differently, depending on where the wives are coming from. So if they know that Nigeria is getting to a point where they catch you be whether. And let me also add this. Some people said the cause of death. Anything can cause a woman or a man in an abusive relationship to come down with diseases they are not naturally supposed to come down with. Because when your hormonal system is constantly trying to protect you, it stops healing itself. I had a conversation one time when I was doing my podcast with a woman who left an abusive marriage, and she said she had developed cancer somewhere here. Yes, it was deep. They had to go to the hospital. They were looking for causes. Do you know that they had to operate her several times? When she finally got the confidence to leave the marriage, that sickness subsided. Everything just left. Her body started reactivating back to normal. So we always feel it's physical. Everything should be physical. It's not physical. It goes way beyond the physical into the sort of sicknesses that you now begin to have as someone who is the abused in a marriage, and trace it with medicine immediately, that is this one that caused the death or this one did not cause the death. The fact that she was under a toxic relationship for how many years could have caused any sickness to start manifesting.
Yeah, Waike, what are your thoughts on the sentence especially?
On the sentence, well, I'm not an advocate for the death sentence. So I would have genuinely preferred a life sentence. I mean, let him rot in jail. Because first and foremost, death might be too easy. With life, that punishment, he will suffer it till he dies. Because he will be there. And he will have
time to think of
time to think of what he did and how he did it. And then also suffer in jail.
Yeah.
That's
one way of looking at it, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then, he was obviously an evil man, or had been abused himself in a previous life. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not ready to delve into what was going on with him mentally. But I have to just say that women, please, if you are being abused, leave.
Thanks for staying with us. So we're discussing domestic violence, and this is something we've discussed so many times over the years, but this Osinachi'S matter, he's bringing it back to the fore. And the conversation is the issue, I think it was Busy that raised it earlier, of how the behavior, where everybody's coming from. And when you talk about where people are coming from, abuse is such that many people are, as you said, you've always said that many of us are damaged. We all grew up with some kind of verbal abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, and the thinking is that we survived. And now many people are marrying exactly what we know. But the truth is that in marrying what you know, your parents lived it, they survived, and you feel that, okay, you can live it too. And that's why when Waike says, if you're in that situation, leave. It's never always that easy to leave somebody who you feel slapped you, not because he wanted to slap you, but because you feel that there was something you did that provoked him, that caused you to slap you. And because of that is the reason. And so in your mind you're thinking, okay, let me try not to provoke him. And you now realize that in the last 1 year that you have not provoked this person, he didn't slap you. So you feel that, okay, I've solved the problem, and you keep moving on. So I'm talking about the real conversation.
That's the real conversation. That's the most sensitive part of conversation. And our larger society has looked at it that way for years.
Yes.
What do? You say if they do well, speak well. But I am trying to raise my kids to understand that your reaction is your own control.
Responsibility.
That's your full responsibility. She made me do it, he made me do it. It's not an excuse that flies. Or the way she talks to me. What are you? Who are you as a person and how you react? Because when we grow, this thing you're saying is what all of us heard. We walk around our friends carefully. We speak around our family members carefully. Their uncles and aunties, non-physical abuse is the worst. Yeah. And our society, we've colorized it beautifully. So we raise our kids, to conform with shame. We shame them. And that's an example of non-physical abuse. But now your mates be that. I even said it to Mercy this morning. Not be your mate, they sing so. It's something that our society has beautified. We don't look at long-term effects of it. So imagine a home where not only did she suffer physical abuse, she must have suffered terrible non-physical abuse. Imagine pushing a human being, even your dog. If you open door, can you push your dog out of the car? I don't like cats, but I cannot push my son's cats out of the house. At least I would have really liked it. But they are there, So imagine it's on a human being that, you push them out of the house. You demean them, you talk down at them in speech. It takes a process. And people will tell you, someone was saying to me over the weekend, what do you mean I don't take care of my wife? I was like, this your wife. Don't you think you're the one leading to this abuse? Because the abuse in question I was talking about was accepted by family. So the husband, I was confronting him that you are right beside, on top and underground of this abuse. He doesn't even consider it an abuse. His excuse was that I feed her, I house her, I clothe her, she's free to go and come when she likes. And so there's no abuse. And I'm looking at the person here. This is a functionally depressed person living with you. And from my own point of view, I can see how the person has been ostracized by family members. They speak to the wife through the husband's phone. And they've been married for almost 10 years.
Now,
if she suffers a loss of family members of a pregnancy or a child, they will call her husband and say, is she there? They will speak to her. They don't approve. And they've taken it far with several other actions.
See, Dima, this thing you are saying, let me pause you. This thing you are saying, they'll tell you is Ileoko.
It's a school.
It's a school. This is how you have to learn how to manage these things. You manage. So my point is that some people have managed it, and they have survived, and they have amazing children, and they have their results. Others are having trouble. So I'm just saying that let us look at it where there are different parts of it.
Let's break down what the survivor is. So some people who really survive it, in the sense that they beat the system. They don't just cope with it.
Yeah.
They confront it with their different styles. So a confrontation style can be that of Remi Tinubu, who chooses to be political and strategic, and another person can be Natasha, who chooses to face and shout. But did you destroy that abuse? Did you destroy that system? Did you break it and make sure that it protects from the next generation? It's not transgenerational. Did you do that? Yeah. Because some people actually cope and transfer the abuse to their children.
Let me come to you.
That's just what I was going to say, because when we say, they came out of it and it was fine, and she was fine, and he was fine, because spousal abuse can be either way. Yeah. Are the kids really fine? Do the kids really recover? What is the psychological effect on those children? It will manifest in different ways that you might not even realize that you have subjected your children to. So not only are you accepting physical abuse on your person, you are allowing it to manifest on your kids without even realizing what you are doing to those children.
Let me pause you here. Let me come to you. I'm not going to take you to this angle. The angle I want you to come in is, okay, you leave. The society says when you leave, your children are even more damaged. That's the thinking, that staying, you say the children are being damaged because you are transferring what your experiences are. But others will say, leaving, you're leaving them without a mother, you're leaving them without a father, you're leaving them without that close, that's 2 units, the nuclear family unit that they're used to. So either way, it's like you're going from prime pan to fire. That's how society has made us look.
Yes, because society was flawed in their thinking. So that is only when 2 people are together, that they can have whole children. We have when two mad people are together, there's nothing whole about the children. Yes. So it's safer for one person to say, I can't stay in this madness. I need to be whole enough to be able to live for my children. And one person is sane to handle the children. The children will look back and appreciate that sacrifice in the future, because that has truncated how they are supposed to accept madness as normal. There are many children who grew up in mad homes who accepted it as normal. That's all they saw. After all, my mother stayed. You hear a man who would beat his wife, destroy things in the house and everything, and you complain, well, my mother stayed. Why are you women complaining today? Our parents stayed.
And we're successful.
What do you call success? Because many people I see in therapy today, when you ask them the question, they trace it back to their childhood. That's not being successful. Why do you think almost everybody in this part of the world is mad and angry? If you trace it back to their upbringing, you see why everybody is triggered. A little word triggers you. You are not reacting to what Mariah has said. You are reacting to what your stepmother said a few years back. But it seems as if Mariah is the one representing it.
Right.
We carry our trauma from generation to generation. And we're saying we can break that cycle for the sake of our children. It is not that flawed society's standard where if two of you are not together, you will not raise children. It's a lie. We've seen examples of people who were not together. We've seen examples of successful people, whole people, people who have empathy, who were raised by one parent or the other. What if your parents died in an accident?
Can you raise those? Can you raise those children? Can you raise it in that flawed? I'm trying to find a way to ask this question.
Can you have good children
within that?
So let me tell you what happens to children, right? We have our different psyches and how we accept things. So you could have, I'm giving an example. This is a real example. I just don't want to mention names. But you can have children who come up from a family of abuse. Let's say there are 3 children right now. One somehow accepts that this is the way of life and becomes abusive. Another accepts that, becomes abusive. Let's start it with becomes narcissistic, which will lead to abuse in future, right? The other one accepts that, there's a way I'm going to shield myself and shield everyone that comes around me, and becomes the people pleaser and the empath, right? There are 2 extremes of not goodness, because what you're supposed to be as a normal human being is to be in the middle. You have a bit of selfishness, you have a bit of selflessness. But when you're too selfless is a problem. It's also a tool for manipulation, which we don't see. You are also trying to manipulate people by people pleasing because you want them to like you. It's a flaw. To the extreme, it's all about you. That's where the abuse now comes, whether it's physical abuse that you end up with and all that. Then we have one who is now so afraid of life, afraid to take a leap, always walking on eggshells around anybody who raises their voice. So we may see that one as normal because she knows how to comply in society, but she's damaged. She cannot be her authentic self. She cannot even pursue her dreams. So at the end of the day, they are young adults, everybody's working, everybody's married, everybody's managing, and we assume that they're successful. They're not okay. They're not all right. You will not even know that you have a problem till you go into therapy and now start asking questions. Why do things like this keep happening to me? See, they trace it back. So all this, they are successful, they manage to raise them and all of that. We are missing the point.
Thanks for staying with us. We're still discussing this issue of abuse, and we discussed the judgment. We're discussing why people stay, because the truth is that our cultural and religious backgrounds also influences why we stay. But I'm told we have a call. And before I go into that, Ayodeji from Abuja, thanks for calling. You're live.
I'm calling from Abuja.
Sorry. Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. My contribution to this very important topic is straight and direct. My advice to any woman going through marital habits is to live without any delay. I'm a perfect example of a broken home. I was 4 years when I was told my mom left an abusive marriage. In fact, I give her kudos that she was able to give birth to 4 of us under abusive home. So any woman passing through such challenge should please leave. I was telling the teenagers in the church on Sunday, when I never even knew that this man will get what he has gotten, the punishment he has gotten, which he deserved. I was telling the teenagers that when you see any woman or any lady being maltreated, being beaten, being eaten by animal, please speak out. Be a voice for someone. Osinachi was not speaking out that time. In fact, people will tell her, please speak. She will say no because of public shame and all that. But I'm happy for the judgment that this man has gotten. So my advice to any woman is please leave any abusive thing. And every woman should be doing something so that you will not say because you're not doing anything, you cannot feed yourself, you want to remain under a man that is beating you.
Thank you very much, Ayodeji. Let me come to you guys. There's a mentality or there's a thinking that these men will change. And the truth is that a lot of advice is like, listen, yes, he's hard now, he slaps you today, he shouts at you, he does it, but don't worry, once he starts hitting 60, 65, those things will stop. They don't have that kind of energy for that kind of thing. 60 years so I'm telling you the real conversation. All this diagram.
60 years.
Because your husband might be 50. We say, but in the next 5-10 years, all these things will die down because we won't have the energy to be shouting at you. So women think that, okay, let me just endure for 10 years and I'll have my peace when he's 65 from 70.
Like you're trying to prove a point. I understand this conversation is something I don't hear and tire. I heard it growing up. When settling disputes between couples, I heard it. We were advised about it when we married. There be a sheep, be a kiniko. We were told how, as if we were marrying lions. We should be roaring up and down the house. Sheep. Even in my own faith, they'll tell you that your ajana is how you cope with it. Rather than tell the person, no, you are not a functional person. You should improve yourself. They'll say, no, it's more about how you make him feel. And so society escorts you if you choose to live with those conversations as you are going. The amount or nothing. The children you have left behind, they'll be useless. Or things will happen, will not have albarika. We heard all of these things. Nobody is addressing that one person is refusing to be accountable in his conduct. I am a husband. I have just screamed at my wife in front of my kids, or my wife has just screamed at me in front of my kids, or one of us has just slapped the other. I will say, no, it's not me. She made me do it. I'm unaccountable. And the kids we are raising will either be that person or condone it. So sadly, most girls will now condone it when they move into marriage as the standard of a good wife material is how you condone it. In this case, remember that it's resource control this man was doing. This man is not the earner in the family. It's the woman that was the earner. In order to control, to intimidate, to ensure that all the resources they under my command is why he was more abusive. And so he made it something that everybody else permitted within family. Nobody fit talk anything. The damage of it on the kids is what we are discussing today. Okay, take your call and come back.
Bumi from Ibadan, thanks for calling. You're live.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, Auntie Morayo, Auntie Waike, Nima, and DC. Good morning.
Good morning.
It is so sad, and just like Auntie Waike said, if you look at it, maybe as human being, we will say it should not be hanged. But the major thing is the children. I have someone that is very close to me that was also in that kind of situation. Has 3 children. All the 3 children that she had, there's none of them that when she was pregnant, the husband did not beat her. And it will land her in the hospital.
Oh, God.
Now, by the time it got to one stage, my husband had to say, let's just come out of this thing and let her leave. My dear sisters, if she did not leave, maybe we will have lost her. And thank God that she left. And I'm really so happy. Thank God. The children, they are all fine. The first one is chemical engineering. Thank God. But thank God she left. Now, see what I'm trying to say. She would have died in any of those pregnant situations. But thank God that she left. Every pregnancy, all the 3 children, their marriage normally should have been 30 years. This April that I'm talking to you, this very April. But thank God she left. So if we always feel bad to say, we should not allow people to be saying that you cannot manage things or you should manage you. Please, our lives are very important.
Okay.
And
thank you very much. Because of limited time, come to you. Because I'd like you to respond to what he said, but also I'd like you to add.
No, more. I wanted to land on the point of success in the kids. So a child can be successful career-wise. In an abusive situation, you can have engineers, lawyers, successful, in fact, business CEOs, leaders. But that's part of their life, their emotional part of their life will never. So when we measure this success, are we?
What are the?
Is he a wholesome individual?
metrics? Yeah.
Can he grow to be a good father? Can he himself be a father? Some people will say they will not marry and will think that their sexuality is the question, whereas it's their emotional. That is the question. What they had experienced makes them feel that they are incapable of being.
I wanted to come to you, BC, concerning the fact that there was a comedian a few months back that was saying that he can never allow his child marry from a broken home. And it's when people hear these kinds of narratives, they want to stay. Because I'm not staying because I know it's healthy for me to leave, but so that my children can get married, so that a potential husband for my child will not say, I don't want to marry a child from a broken home. So that thing makes them stay.
Yeah, so it's still the flawed society, because somebody who is saying you cannot marry a child from a broken home can marry a child from an unbroken home that is damaged. There are lots of homes that are parents are together, but the children are damaged. The parents are still fighting from now till the next 60 years. And there was something that you were saying initially, that people want to say, okay, just manage now. Maybe when he gets to 60, you have not seen a 70-something-year-old damaged person. Because the truth of the matter is that we get worse as we get older. Especially if you are not used to being accountable for your actions.
They become the mother and fathers-in-law.
Yes, the same people.
Damage people when they become the monsters-in-laws.
Yes, exactly.
They damage they are there. They never heal.
So we don't. Yes, you don't heal, and then you get worse, and that's why they tell you that what you cannot take at the beginning of a marriage, don't start it, because once you start it, you are going to take it to the rest of that marriage, except you choose to leave. People don't get better. They get worse. So you can tell from the beginning that, okay, can I cope with this? Can I not cope with this? And people are saying that it's not easy to leave. It's not easy to leave. It is easy to leave depending on how you have prioritized your life, how you have loved yourself. That is how you can decide to take yourself away from a toxic situation. Because let's look at it. We have a lot of people who are coming down with serious diseases, and this is scientifically proven. People should go and research it. Serious diseases because they are in constant abusive relationships, whether it's marriage, whether it's partnership, whatever it is. Their hormones are constantly fighting battles that they should not be fighting. And after how many years, you're coming down with several illnesses that you could have avoided if you had taken yourself out of that situation. We're not trying to break marriages. If you know that you can cope and you don't care about how your children want to turn out in the future, it's on you.
Let me take this call from calling from Ilorin. Thanks for calling. You're live.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I just want to make a small comment. I think we should go back to the foundation of the whole thing. You see, I think many times we look at dating or boyfriend and girlfriend, it is more of a feeling. But marriage is a commitment.
Okay.
It is not a feeling. You see, many times we transfer that into marriage. In marriage, whether you feel like or you don't feel like, there are boundaries that must be kept. And it is because people look at marriage as a feeling. I don't feel like today, I feel like tomorrow. That is what influences many reactions. I have been married for close to 30 years. I've disagreed with my wife many times, but it has never crossed my mind. Certain things has never crossed my mind. Because you are shocked. Whether on the side of the man or the woman, there has to be boundaries to be kept. If you recognize that this is a commitment, we are committed to work. You go to work, you are angry, but you don't fight your guard work. So there are certain things that must be kept. Marriage is a commitment.
So Mr. Kule, you being committed. Stephen, can you stay committed? Can you stay committed when it comes to violence, the issues of domestic violence and stuff like that?
If both the husband and the wife are committed, there will be no violence.
Okay. Exactly. I think that was the point.
Thank you very much. Exactly.
So a commitment is to be.
No, I was just going to say sometimes, at the beginning of a relationship, you are not married, your husband will slap, your boyfriend, will slap you, and you say, oh, it's because he loves me. He's jealous. The other man looked at me. You don't know that it's starting from there. So when you start with the relationship and the man is slapping you from the beginning, just know that when you enter,
you go collect
that slap will turn to beating.
Let me have a call from the US so I can go back to you. Gloria from Boston, thanks for calling. You're live.
Hi, good morning,
Good morning.
Morayo. My name is Gloria. I'm a first-time caller.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. This issue is really touching to me because I lived with an abusive husband for 20-something years.
Wow.
And I finally, in 2021, decided and I had the courage to leave. We as Nigerians who really don't take this thing serious, but it's very damaging. I have 3 children from the marriage, and all 3 of my children, to the outside people, they look very responsible and very normal. But all 3 of them were affected in different ways. My oldest son, who's my son, cannot seem to get his life together and has vowed never to get married because of what they saw their father do to me. My other daughter tried to cope by immersing herself in her work, in her school work. So people look at her and say, you're so intelligent, you're so driven. But that's her coping mechanism. And then my youngest one, that one has anxiety disorder as we speak. So I have to seek therapy for all 3 of them and for myself. So it is very deep because I experienced abuse, both physical and sexual, growing up. So when I got married, I thought I was escaping that, but I got into a deeper abuse by my husband. So please, women, do not stay, because when you stay, you're damaging the children, and it is not okay. It is never okay to face abuse, and that's my contribution.
Thank you very much, Gloria.
I'm having goosebumps.
I mean, yeah, I was going to ask her, but I didn't want to just engage her further because there are different levels of abuse. There's verbal, emotional, physical, sexual. I mean, she was sexual abuse. But when it's not physical, people think it's coping. You can cope with it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you see, she said before she got married, she was sexually abused. So she faced an abuse before she entered an abusive marriage, and she stayed because of. So it's always it's a vicious circle.
Yeah, it keeps coming.
A vicious cycle.
Yeah.
So you just keeps coming. That's why it's not advisable. I would never.
But again, is leaving always the option? I mean, I would love to engage her.
Yeah.
Is leaving always the better option?
When you think of the lives that you have brought into the world, you are responsible. If you bring a child into the world, you are responsible to take care of that, for the care of that child till it reaches the age
of maturity.
When you cannot be responsible and you are subjecting the child to that kind of abuse, because it's abuse on the child as well.
Yeah, it is.
Even if the man or woman doesn't touch the child, it's still mental abuse.
Yes, because the child sees.
Yes.
The child absorbs.
We have to wrap up on this. I mean,
so
let me let you have a final word.
Yeah, so I think that people need to be a little more selfless when it comes to their children. The narrative that we've been sold is that when you leave an abusive marriage or relationship, your children are going to suffer because then society will tag them, they came from broken homes. But you have to ask yourself, is it not better that my home is broken and their own will not be broken in future? So those are some of the things we have to put into cognizance when we are making decisions. So you have chosen to marry and bear children. It's not just about your life now. You should think beyond yourself and what you're benefiting in the society, but also how it's going to impact. And many people don't have this knowledge of how it impacts, because I've seen people who have had conversation with their parents and they're spotting some things to them why they are behaving the way they are, and the parents say, no, I did my best though, no, I raised you, no, I tried. They don't even understand the conversation. So we need to open a table and begin to talk about the adverse effects some of these things have on the lives of the children.